And that was so amazing. I was thinking, wow. I also remember once you took me to Khayelitsha.
Khayelitsha is actually a combination of formal and informal settlements. Land-wise, Khayelitsha is about 36.7 kilometers square.
Wow.
We have pioneered a youth development center called Lighthouse Foundation.
Hey everybody, I have Lunga in the house. So he has pioneered a ministry in Khayelitsha. It's a township, and he's also with Youth with a Mission. He's doing a lot of things. I don't know what to really give a title for him, whether he's a missionary or an activist or a social worker. And we are going to figure out like what he exactly does in Khayelitsha. It's one of the biggest township in the world. So welcome. I'm so glad to have you in the house.
Moses, thank you so much for having me here, man. What a privilege and an honor for me to sit in one of your podcasts.
It's a pleasure for me. And so tell to the people like what you do in Khayelitsha.
Well, let's first talk about Khayelitsha itself.
Yes.
So, as you might have mentioned earlier on, that Khayelitsha is one of the largest slums in the world. Here in South Africa, Khayelitsha is the second largest township, which has about 2.4 million people.
Yeah.
And I think about 98% of the people that stay there are Xhosa speaking people.
Wow.
I think the remainder percentage is just a variety of people. Like we've got a lot of foreign nationals as well. Yeah. And Khayelitsha is actually a combination of formal and informal settlements. So with formal settlements, this is where you get bricked houses, houses that have sewage, houses that have running water, electricity, they have street roads. But about, I think 50% of Khayelitsha is also informal, where it's cluttered. People don't have running water. They use a communal well point, and also they use communal toilets as well. Like 10 families would use one toilet. Yeah.
How big is that community? Like when you say Khayelitsha.
All right. So land-wise, Khayelitsha is about 36.7 kilometers square.
Wow.
And Khayelitsha is about 26 subsection in it.
Okay.
Yeah, so the general name for the community is Khayelitsha, but if you go more inside the community, you'll see you have Kuyasa, you have Sightsee, you have Mandela Park, you have Lita Park. So there's several subsections that encapsulates Khayelitsha. And average household is about 1 to 4. Majority of houses are single parented. Khayelitsha has schools, has about 52 schools in total. We have one hospital that has about 1,000 beds, which is very little.
It's just one hospital for 37.
Yeah, so it's like, one hospital, but there's like several clinics, day clinics.
Okay. I also remember once you took me to Khayelitsha,
Yes.
and that just really shook me up. And I never saw a place like that. There is a lot of life in it. There's people surviving, and when you enter in, you can see that these people are nice and good, and it got a lot of potential in it, and it's interesting. So I'm so glad so the world knows what's really happening in Khayelitsha. Do you want to highlight any other thing? How is the education system in Khayelitsha?
Okay, cool. So as I mentioned, there's about 52 schools in the rest of Khayelitsha. Classes are overcrowded. Schools are overcrowded, right? An average classroom has about 42 to 50 kids, right? And one teacher will be managing that amount of kids. And quite sadly, majority of these schools, they don't have the state-of-the-art equipment, like equipment that's meant to help kids thrive in their education. Like you would have a library, but the library doesn't have enough books. Or you'll have a computer lab that doesn't have computers, or even a science lab that doesn't have all the facilities to help kids know more of science. But generally, the schools, average school would have about 1,300 learners in it.
I just remember now the school. I don't know what's the school name that we.
Oh, it's called Ludwengamlana.
Okay, I don't think so. I can pronounce that.
All good.
I just remember, like, you took me as a team, we went, and all of a sudden we went to the front, and then like the choir of 1,000 people, 1,000 kids singing. I just got a goosebumps.
Yeah.
And that was so amazing. I was thinking, wow, these kids, how I think the schools are doing good. It can be better.
Certainly.
I think you're also working towards it. I believe
Yeah.
that, that is one of the main vision. I mean, what do you do particularly? What do you specifically, if you want to tell what you do in Khayelitsha?
We have pioneered a youth development center called Lighthouse Foundation. The heart behind Lighthouse is to impact young people
Yeah.
through education,
Yeah.
skills development, as well as
Mm.
create spaces for like youth gathering spaces for young people to find sense of community and sense of belonging.
Wow.
And so we strongly believe that education is the most powerful tool
Exactly.
that you can use to change the whole world.
Yes.
As
Yeah.
Nelson Mandela once mentioned. And so one of our main focuses is we help kids with their education,
Yeah.
right? We run tutoring and homework program over there where we help kids. One of the things we do is we do career advisory as well.
Yeah.
We do computer literacy and also we do emotional support. Because majority of these kids, they go through a lot of social traumas, right? And so our team, that is, we want to create those safe spaces where they can talk about whatever that is bothering them.
Yeah.
So
Do you mean, do kids go through what type of trauma that they go through?
so there's a lot of violence in the community. Some of the kids go through like child abuse, and some they tend to witness violence in the community. Sometimes maybe a kid is run over by a car.
Wow.
So there's quite a lot of things that kids go through. And so we want to be those safe spaces, for young people to share.
Yes, of course. You mentioned Lighthouse.
Yes,
So how do you want to see Lighthouse, or how this Lighthouse is serving an individual, or a specific person, or a kid, or a family?
sure. So maybe I should touch on a little bit of how we started. I think it will help paint a picture of
that would be great. Yeah.
where we are at and where I think we are heading as an organization.
Yeah.
And so I think 10 years ago to date, my wife and I, together with a bunch of volunteers, we reached out to this community, Khayelitsha, Kuyasa to be exact. And really our heart was to go and serve the local churches, as well as serve the local schools, as well as the preschools. And little did we know that as we wanted to share and serve, we got exposed to some of the social ills of that community. And one of the things that broke our heart was to see a number of young people loitering around the townships without sense of purpose, without sense of direction. And in fact, we saw them, some of them were standing around the corners, street corners, smoking and drinking alcohol.
I also hear there is gangsterism a lot of gangsterism in this.
Certainly, some areas, there are some gangsterisms. Maybe we can talk more about that as well. So the more we got involved in the community, the more we soon realized that, man, there are no centers of hope in this community where young people can actually go
just lose their life, just get lost.
Right.
Yeah.
And so realize, man, there are no youth centers, no sports centers, no sports field whatsoever.
Wow.
Right. Young people and children are just squashed in this small community. And so it was in that time where we felt God leading us to start a youth center called Lighthouse.
Wow.
And we believe that Lighthouse is, God wants to create a lighthouse to be that beacon of light into the community, also to the surrounding communities. And so we then invited young people into one of the local early childhood development facilities. And really our heart was to create sense of community, sense of belonging, right? where we can speak identity to their lives, where we can set them to the path they meant to go to, right? Instead of them falling through the cracks of social illnesses. And so over the years, we were able to run, as actually we are running education programs. We focus mainly on homework clubs as well as tutoring. And this is just the beginning of the number of programs we want to run within Lighthouse. Also, I don't know, I'm sure you saw, the level of unemployment rate is in staggering numbers. In South Africa as a whole, unemployment rate is like 45%. But if you go more in the township, that number gets bigger and bigger, right? It's a ridiculous number, like 62 to 70%, you know, and majority it's young people who are not working, right? And some of them, they want to work, but they can't find means and ways of employment. And so we believe by giving these young people skill and training them with job readiness courses where they can actually feel they can go and knock on companies and apply for employment.
So we don't miss this generation.
Yes, sir.
That's your so you basically give them education and
skills development,
and you make sure they're doing good in life.
Yeah, and we've created youth gathering spaces because I think that's key. That's key, you know, like because they don't have places to gather, to build friendships and stuff. So we've created that space where they can come in without feeling pressure from home or from community, where they can just be kids.
Right? I mean, I personally felt the same thing when I entered the Lighthouse. Oh man, this space is good. You know, you can just be yourself. And you just, you know, just be who you are. You know, that's what you're doing. I can see that. So how many kids right now are coming to Lighthouse?
On our system, I think we have about 50, 60 kids. In our education program, we have about 50 kids. But in our youth group, we have 60 kids that come to our space. And you know, this is we have hardly scratched the surface of this community, like in terms of numbers.
I can picture that.
I mean, you know this, right?
That,
when we move in and out of that community, there's like hundreds and hundreds of young people roaming around. And some of these kids, they don't know that Lighthouse exists there, right? And so,
but it's good to start. You started with 50. I believe that it's going to increase more.
Yes,
I believe that a lot of kids are going to, you know, educate, you know, or being a life coach for them.
Yes, sir.
And wow. Okay, Lunga, give us a picture for the audience, like what exactly happens in the Lighthouse, or how does it look, or do you have any programs?
Sure. So thank you. So with our education program, we meet every Monday to Thursday. We've got a team of staff, about six staff that are helping these kids on the ground. And the crazy cool thing is kids come straight from school, they come to our space, and as they arrive, the teachers will be there to help them and serve them, and we give them a light snack to just get them going. Secondly, also here at Lighthouse, we've got the youth cafe. And in this youth cafe, really it's this safe and vibrant space for young people to find sense of community. And and so when they come to our space, they play games, they fellowship, they have conversations, they
dance a lot.
They dance a lot. I mean, you know this, they make you dance, right? And also we take some time and we actually focus on Jesus. We worship together, and we also get to hear a word of encouragement, like a message from the Bible. And also as we wrap up our time together, we get to fellowship more, and we eat snacks, you know, and
you're just bringing them into a safe space now. You know, now I feel like they're not lost. You know,
say that again.
They're not lost. You're kind of, bringing them, encouraging them, giving them education. Can you do that? Like, what makes you to do that? I think this, not everybody can, that when you say like the capacity of a person, and you mentioned we can picture like how big is this thing, how many kids are around, that you're working with 50 kids right now, and what motivates you, in other words?
Sure, man. I think number one, without stereotyping this, my number one motivator is Jesus.
Yes.
Right? It's clear in the scriptures that we should go into all the world and make disciples of all nations. So Jesus is my primary motivator. And also one of the things I've discovered is growing up, I didn't have mentors. I didn't have people coaching me on how to navigate life, right? How to make the right and the wisest decisions in life, right? And so growing up, I was like, man, I wish I would have had someone like me who could walk a journey with me and tell me, you know what, you don't have to make this decision because it could lead you to this, like a life coach as well as a mentor. And then over the years, as I grew in my faith with the Lord, I developed this strong desire of wanting to mentor and coach young people, and so really this is coming from a place of passion. And I love just working with young people, just developing young people so they can live up to their God-given potential. As we speak, at Lighthouse with our youth cafe, we have about 9 facilitators, and we've identified potential leadership, right? And some of them they have rough edges all around them, but it's easy sometimes to spot potential, and so I tend to invite them to a closer space where I can invest more in their lives. And I want to highlight a couple of young people whom I've been investing in. One of those is Martha Jacobs. I've known him for, I think, since we've started Lighthouse, and he had a group of friends, and some of his friends were not so...
He became my close friend right now.
Exactly, right? He likes you. He likes you, and some of his previous friends were making bad choices, and, and some have died due to some reason, and somehow Bartley has been making wise decisions, and he's, he's doing his second year in university, pursuing his education degree,
Wow.
and so thinking of young people like him who have remained committed to Lighthouse, and how he's committed to Lighthouse leads to his livelihood is improving, to a point other young people within Lighthouse are looking up to him, and that's exactly what we want to model, right? Also, I'm remembering another young lady, Sita. She's doing her practicals in an accounting firm, and she was doing financial accounting. And now she is enrolled into university, wanting to further her studies in financial accounting.
Wow.
She wants to become a chartered accountant, So we walk a journey with these kids, hoping and praying that they would make wise decisions for themselves, and so they can improve their livelihoods.
Yes, it sounds like you see the void when you are young. You don't want that to be continued, and you became, you became something so that you can fill what they're experiencing. So you said Jesus. I believe like without Jesus, you can't love, you can't become yourself. Okay, I'm coming into your, I'm gonna do something in your void, and and you're doing an amazing job. I don't think so. Like many people can do that, but I can see that your heart behind Khayelitsha, your heart behind Lighthouse, your heart behind the kids, and it's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And somebody has to do it.
Exactly, because you see there is a need in that,
there's a need,
and then you just showed yourself, and that's amazing.
So I think our goal and vision, as you've heard earlier on, that there's about 52 schools in Khayelitsha. For Lighthouse, I'm seeing multiplication. I would like to reap or multiply lighthouses throughout Khayelitsha, to a point when I'm like, if we can see lighthouses right next to each and every school in Khayelitsha, and kind of like serve the greater community. Also, to run multiple skills development programs that will give young people a skill that they can use so they can be self-sufficient, right? Because jobs are very scarce. That's the reality in this country. Jobs are scarce, but there's nothing that beats giving a young person a skill and and letting them use that skill or build a table or build burglar bars, where they can use
do something with your
do something exactly right. Start a business or start sell meat. We love meat in the township, so
but there's a lot of meat in the township. That's so good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we would like to multiply lighthouse throughout the city. And I know it will look different each community, because you can't apply blanket approach into all communities. Each community would have its own need.
It sounds like a big project for me, So how do you manage your finances? Do you get support from
That's a good one.
Or if there are people support you financially? Like how do you
we do have individuals that are supporting the ministry, the supporting Lighthouse. We have partner churches that usually give once-off donations towards the ministry. And we have a couple of bigger companies that are giving funds towards projects. Like if you remember, we did all this renovation at Lighthouse. So these companies are giving towards renovations. And also, if you want computers, these companies will give a portion of money towards computers.
So you're back
biggest, not entirely. The biggest need is we can't cover our running costs, right? So we're still trusting for people who can give on a regular basis. This could look like $100 a month, or $200 or 1,000 rand a month towards the running costs of the organization.
Whoever is watching, I hope you hear there is a need for this lighthouse, and if God speaks to you, if you want to give for this ministry, feel free to talk to him. I'm gonna still put his phone number, his details below, so be in touch with him. Be a part of what God is doing, in his life, in Khayelitsha, and what do you see like God is doing in that place for this season through you?
Sure. Yeah, Moses, I think looking at the landscape of where we are in that location, there's a strong desire from amongst the people. They would like to see these lighthouses everywhere, right? Talking about community leaders, they would like to see lighthouses. But the biggest thing I'm observing and seeing with the kids that are part of Lighthouse is the genuine hunger. Like these kids, they are hungry for the Lord. And quite frankly, the kids we attract, they are coming from different church backgrounds. Some of them are not churched at all. They get to meet Jesus for the first time at Lighthouse. And so one of the things we've identified is that these kids, they want to know the Lord. They want community where Jesus is at the center of the program, and one of the biggest things we see is the desire for mentorship. You can tell some of these kids are struggling. They have identity crisis. They're very insecure. And you could tell they are hungry for mentorship, for big brothers and sisters who would walk a journey with them, people who would believe in them, people who would spur them on in life, And so, so that's one of the things I'm seeing that I think God is stirring with our kids, but it proves to us that the wider community wants
Wow.
something different, right? And
How
yeah,
do you want to see Lighthouse in next 5 years?
yeah, the location we are in, I would like to see a structure that runs multiple programs, that caters programs that serves young people, but also that serves families like moms and dads, right? This could look like running parental programs or even running fatherhood programs, like programs that are equipping and empowering fathers to be good fathers, right? Also, yeah, to have more spaces where young people can just come and be, man. Young people, they live under continuous trauma there. They run away from these traumas in the community. They go home. They experience more trauma, right? Wouldn't it be nice to have places where they know I can just walk into that place and go be with other kids?
Just receive love.
Monday to Monday, Monday to Monday, not just on certain days, yeah, and
great.
Yeah, also to see people from other nations just coming in and out of this community, right? In Lighthouse,
You also invite people all over the world.
Like you are Indian, so you come to Lighthouse.
I think my audience know that I'm from India, so thanks for mentioning that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and it's been a pleasure working with you. I enjoyed. Thank you for letting me know Khayelitsha, and then I stood up, man. This thing, I think the world needs to know.
Yes, sir.
I think my burden is, I think that a lot of people should show up into Khayelitsha and see, and be a blessing,
Yes, sir.
and just back up Lighthouse or what you do, your dreams and visions. It's very great to see that, how God is moving in that.
Yeah, we need to put Lighthouse, or not just Lighthouse, Khayelitsha, into the world map. There's so much talent.
Yes.
There's so much potential there.
Yes.
And unfortunately, some kids, they don't know how to rise above these social illnesses. They find themselves limited or restricted, right? And so we need to call it forth. We need to call the potential out. We need to call the gift that is there in Khayelitsha out, and let the world, experience it. And yeah,
I feel like do you want to say particularly, to our audience?
Sure. Thank you. I think one of the biggest things that has marked me as a person is this whole thing of sacrifice. There's a passage in the Bible that says, unless the corn dies, it abides alone. So in other words, if we want to see greater impact in society, we need to sacrifice our comfort, we need to sacrifice our personal ambitions, and actually be willing to go and serve others, right? And if we want to see change and transformation in townships, in slums, in society in general, we need people who are going to sacrifice their time, their profession, their selfish ambitions, and lay those aside and be willing to go and make an impact. And so if you are sitting there at home and you're wondering, man, I've been having this vision or dream that I would like to pursue, but maybe you might be scared or feeling like, or fearful. But you know what? With prayer and with just trusting in God, you can actually step out in faith and pursue your dream and your vision that God has put in your heart. Blessings.
Thank you so much, Lunga. I hope that you gave a good picture of Khayelitsha and what's happening there. And I'm so glad to be a part for some season. And thank you so much for coming and talking and sharing.
Moses, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me to discuss, man. Yeah.
See you guys.